Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So, each and every person, regardless of the person, wherever they are, you've always heard me say that people are not inextricably linked from their environment. Meaning, I am in a particular context. I was born with a particular race, in a certain demographic, in a certain spot on the planet, in a certain country, ensconced in a certain culture that has subcultures built within that particular culture. I have a perspective, I have a point of view. In order for me to understand what takes place outside of myself, meaning the wider world, I use news, media, and sometimes I may even go to those particular places. And still, by virtue of me trying to study a particular thing, it means that I am on the outside of that particular thing. It's always hazy. The reality is always going to be to some degree ambiguous. The news media tries to give certain narratives, certain ideas. We create an understanding of the world that allows us a certain paradigm to which we exist. We use our particular context, our particular paradigm, to give us a wider view of the world. It's almost like, what does the world look like? Well, to some degree, your understanding and your representation of the world has a large degree of you built into that understanding of the larger world. It's strange. It's weird. There is no part of reality to which is the absolute, so you're always stuck with these relative perspectives. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that people being earnest, looking at something in an earnest way, can't come to some disagreement about what they're looking at. Because again, it's hazy. It's ambiguous. Who actually knows? The answer to that question is, of course, is going to be no one actually knows. People have ideas. People have thoughts. And they base those thoughts based on the evidence that's presented to them. And again, even with them looking at the evidence to some degree, the perspective of the evidence has a large component of them. Can't get away from it. There is a gentleman in Newsweek. That gentleman has a perspective of what the outside world is like. And he's never said, well, for at least in this particular article, he hasn't necessarily said anything bashing my faction of the world. So I take it as good-hearted disagreement. But I disagree with Jeffrey Bloodworth's article extraordinarily strenuously. I could not disagree more with this guy. He wrote an article entitled "Democrats won't beat Trump by racing to the left" by Jeffrey Bloodworth. Now, I thought to myself, was this written in 2016? But no, as you can see, this is November 2017. On Friday, he jumped up and says, you know what? Democrats won't beat Trump by racing to the left. I read this article and I could not strenuously disagree more. I couldn't disagree more. So let's see. There's a section of this, because I always like to give a section of the article. Can I read it? At least I try to. That's not it. That's not it. So maybe this is it. Damn. Okay. Alright, the basic premise of the article. Sorry, I have a ton of browsers open because I have a ton of stories that I wanted to do. Alright, so the basic premise of the article is America is somewhat of a centrist nation, and this scorch burn politics of trying to run to one side or the other is not what the Democratic Party should do. It's not what allowed the Democratic Party to gain some level of dominance as a political party. I think you are absolutely and completely wrong. Because I think what you're calling this kind of centrist politics, at least in the current day and age, you're massively missing something. The issue of class. You're massively missing the issue of class. The Democratic Party calls itself a centrist purely because it's trying to piece these two ends together, not of the middle class demographics, but the issues of class. The issues of class. I don't understand. I've read this article and you're talking about the middle class. I get that. I understand that part. But what you're missing is there's a class divide in the Democratic Party that's not based in multiple factions in regards to the 99%. That's not the issue with the Democratic Party, dude. You fundamentally missed it. If that's the case that you're making in your book, here's a book. He's hawking a book. The issue is class. You have a progressive section of the Democratic Party that the Democratic functionaries, the people who are at the top, want to work with these elites. Pursuant to working with these elites, they fucked over the other part of the party. You understand that, right? The Democratic Party made a Faustian bargain under the Clinton administration. And you could make it an argument that it was even before the Clinton administration. We can take a huge amounts of cash. We can pass right-wing policies. And because we're Democrats, it would look at it as if the right-wing policies are perfectly okay. We would tell our base, you have nowhere else to go. This is a two-party system. And because this is a two-party system, you're going to have to suck it up. Bask in our apathy with in regards to the things that you love, be it unions, be it dealing with the poor, dealing poverty. Bask in our apathy because the other guys are maniacs. The problem with this is, as the Democrats slid to the right, not centrists, slid to the right, you allowed the right wing to slide to the right. When Obama, in an interview, calls himself, saying, yeah, a few years ago, I would have been called a centrist Republican. Yeah, you would have, a moderate Republican, yes. I call you a moderate Republican now. They hugged identity. They hugged identity. They hugged every darkie, every Hispanic, every LGBTQ person that they could find, because that stuff works amazingly well with the capitalistic model. And ultimately, the thing that upsets the apple cart, the thing that bugs Democrats, the thing that creates the divide, it's not all of these under 99% people things. It's this issue of class. It's this issue of class. I don't understand how people can write about Democratic Party and Democratic politics and completely and fundamentally miss the problem with this is issues of class. Why do you think they came out with a 99%? We are the 99%. And who do you believe that 99% was supposed to be represented by? And if you believe that 99% was being represented by some political class, that they would have to come out and say, we are the 99%. I'm making this point that Occupy Wall Street was in direct rebuke of the failures of the Democratic Party. You can make an argument for the political system as a whole, but I would make the case that the Republican Party represented the rich. Democrats were supposed to represent the middle class. And to be honest, the 99%, everybody else. They're supposed to be representing everybody else. He mentions FDR in this article. FDR was antagonistic towards the wealthy class of elites that the Democratic Party continuously court. That raging lunatic, that snarling millionaire, billionaire, who has all the money in the world, who was on MSNBC saying he called Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi and told them to cut it out. Cut all this class talk out. Cut all this class talk out. Think about that. This is in the Democratic Party, the party that's supposed to represent the 99%. You believe that the signing of the Trans-Pacific Partnership was going to be advantageous to workers, to the 99%. Do you believe that the guy who Obama put in, that's going to get rid of net neutrality, do you believe that getting rid of net neutrality was advantageous to the operation and working of the 99%? Do you believe that getting rid of Wall Street reform, meaning the Glass-Steagall, do you believe that destroying welfare, do you believe that all these things was advantageous to the lefties, to the 99%, to the rest of the country? I am making this fundamental point to you that the policies, the reason why Democrats lead in this way is because they're paid to lead in this way. You have a quote-unquote big tent. You have these snarly millionaires, these greedy assholes, just like the guy on MSNBC screaming that he doesn't have enough cash and the Democrats should just cut off his class talk out. The issue here is class. The issue here is class. Having this conversation about the Bernie Sanders wing and his Hillary Clinton wing. No. Let's talk brass tacks. What we're talking about here is issues of class. You're talking about a socialist running against a capitalist. Class. That's what's on the table. Issues of class. Now, the divide in this is that workers, the poor, the middle class have nobody to represent their interests because the Democratic Party understood that in order to win elections, we need to get massive amounts of cash. That's their logic. It is easier to get massive amounts of cash from a very small percentage of people, meaning those very small percentage of people are going to have very specific ideas and the things that they want passed in regards to legislation. And it's just so happened those specific ideas, if it's going to advantage them, is going to adversely affect workers and everybody else. This article is enraging. This article is enraging. These high-minded guys who sit in Newsweek and these other ivory towers, and they have these conversations as if they're completely devoid from the actual real-world scenario of things. What I would tell you, what I would say, is that what you're considering to be the middle in this regard, you're taking it as if this is purely some kind of political thing of these people just having pure ideologies, as if cash doesn't play into this political system, meaning the behavior of a certain faction of this particular party, whether they just believe this stuff or whether they're leaning this way towards cash, meaning whether it's chicken and the egg, they believe this way. They have this particular philosophy of things. They believe that they're the adults in a room, even though they've failed magnificently. If they believe this, and they believe that the other adults in the room just are right. So they're not necessarily getting paid because people are bribing them. They're just getting paid because they just told this particular line. I don't care which way the arrow goes. It boils down to the same. These guys favor a particular demographic that's fucking over the other demographics. This is an issue of class. They've had class warfare on us, the 99% for the past 100 years. Don't take my word for it. Just look at the stats on how much the wealth has accrued at the very top, as opposed to everything else being stagnant for the rest of the demographics. Look, I don't know what's in this guy's book. I don't know if this guy's book is good or at all. Something about centrism, the beauty of centrism. That's great. He likes centrism. In my book, Losing the Center, The Decline of America, Liberalism, 1968 to 1992. That's great. He's talking a book. Now, there's a capitalistic motive for taking a particular position. I'm not going to say that that's the reason why he's taking this position. He may full well believe it. Full well believe it. I'm a cynical SOB just from looking at politics. So I give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm just saying you're massively wrong on this. And just for polling, like I said, I have no way of interacting with the rest of the world outside of the evidence that's presented to me. That's it. Polling data is some of the evidence that I use to make my determinations on this stuff. Let's take a look at polling data. Oh, by the way, let's take a look at this piece. But 2017 is not 1972. Reagan era has passed. The election of a multiracial law professor and race-baiting casino hustler to the presidency emphasizes this reality. Thus, the old issues and enemies of America have changed. Rather than don bell-bottom jeans and assume that they are involved in a historical reenactment of the 70s, Democrats should dispose of binary thinking. The party is not confronted with a zero-sum game choice between Clintonism and Sandinistas. Sound policies that balance the necessity of economic dominalism with the societal obligation of mass material security is the primary issue of this era. No. You need to pick a pony. Be true to yourself. Be true to whoever you are. You need to pick a pony. Now, the reason why I say that is, you can make an argument. This is just language. Language obfuscates. Brass tacks. What does that mean? I don't know what that means. Does that mean Obamacare is being one of those awesome fucking things? If you're going out with policies that are purely along ideological lines, as opposed to technical questions, how do we supply healthcare for each and every person in this particular country at the lowest rate possible? Meaning, amazing, decent care with costs. If what you're calling centrism is coming up with Obamacare, then you failed miserably, you've missed the point, and you're massively wrong. You're massively wrong. Obama could say, that's exactly what I did when I took that office, and I put through Romney Care. And I left 20 to some odd million people still off healthcare rolls with prices spiking. If you're going to do something, do it right. Meaning, if you're going to pass Social Security, you're going to pass Social Security in a way that benefits the population itself. Yes, he brought Social Security up in this. What he misses is that human beings aren't any particular way. And the culture that he's attributing to Americans, it's not this thing that is fixed in stone. The argument that you make is the argument that you've made. Republicans have made an argument for the past 50 years that Democrats have not necessarily even attempted to rebuff, at least not in the past 40, 50 years. Democrats have accepted the playing field that Republicans have created, and as such, the debate has moved further to the right. They accepted that playing field because they wanted to accept the cash that these corporations and these plutocrats were giving out. That's why. This idea of centrism purely boils down to this. You have one wing of this particular party that is completely antagonistic towards what they consider to be plutocrats and the problem of our society. You have this other wing of the party who are the plutocrats themselves and want to advantage themselves off the backs of the other demographic that dislikes them. You have people in the middle who are completely unaware of this particular process. And they vote because the other party seems batshit crazy. The people who are unaware of this particular process would just go along. Now, Democrats themselves in the last polls, they were okay with moving the party to the right. The issue with moving to the party to the right has nothing to do with Democrats themselves or the people who are in this party, who are the voting population. It has everything to do with the people who are in charge of the party. This article is annoying to me. This article is annoying to me. It misses the point. Let's take a look at some stuff. More Americans favor raising than lowering tax rates on corporations' high household incomes. Democrats wouldn't touch the issue of raising taxes. The American population is on board for this. A majority of Democrats, an overwhelming majority of Democrats, wants them to raise taxes on the rich. A large number of Republicans also. This creates an overwhelming majority of the population in this country. Do you believe that Democrats in any way would touch this issue? And do you believe this is an issue of centrism? Do you believe this is an issue of centrism? Meaning, based upon the logic that you're going by in that particular article, what you're calling the center is not really the center. What you're calling the center is contrived, based purely in Washington, based purely in this idea of the news, media, and everything else. They have an idea of the world. They have a narrative. That narrative is not representative to the reality of people when you actually talk to those people. More Americans favor raising than lowering tax rates on corporations or high households. You would never hear that on news. This would never come up as a news topic. Let's keep going. And just to show you the numbers of this. There is less public support for raising taxes on higher income women. However, as tax rates on corporations, there's 24% say taxes on incomes over $250,000 should be reduced. 43%. I need to get rid of this. I need to see what this is saying because I want to see the entire thing. There we are. There is less public support for raising taxes on higher income households. However, as with tax rates on corporations, just 24% say taxes on incomes over $250,000 should be reduced. 43% say taxes should be raised, while 29% favor keeping them the same as they currently are, according to Pew Research survey conducted August 15th among roughly 2,000 people. Majority of Democrats and Democratic-leaning independents favor raising taxes on both corporations and high incomes, while Republicans are more divided. Among Republicans, of Republican leaners, 41% say tax rates on corporations and large businesses should be lowered, while 32% say they should be raised. 23% want them kept as they are. And only about a third of Republicans, 36%, say tax rates on households above $250,000 should be reduced. Nearly as many, 33%, say they should be kept, and 26% want them raised. There is more support for tax cuts for corporations among conservative Republicans, 48%, than moderate and liberal Republicans. Similarly, conservative Republicans, 41%, are more likely than GOP moderates and liberals to favor reducing taxes on incomes above $250,000. About a quarter of United States adults, 24%, say tax rates on corporations and large businesses should be lowered, while roughly twice as many, 52%, say they should be raised. Another 21% say corporate tax rates should stay as they are. The point I want to make on this is not something that would be brought up. I'm putting an article in the bottom. This is not something that would be brought up by Democrats. They don't want to touch it. And this is not something that would be brought on mainstream news. And yet, the American public, for the most part, is on board with this. Let's keep going. Let's look at another one. Public support for single-payer health care grows, driven by Democrats. A majority of Americans say it is the federal government's responsibility to make sure all Americans have health care, and a growing share now supports single-payer, approach to health insurance, according to new national survey by Pew Research. Currently, 60% say federal government is responsible for ensuring healthcare coverage for all Americans, while 39% say it's not the responsibility or the government's responsibility. These views are unchanged from January, but the share saying health coverage is a government responsibility remains at its highest for nearly since a decade. Let's go to another one. Majority of Americans want free college. This is Bloomberg. Few things are universally beloved as getting something for nothing. Everyone supports a free sample of grocery store soda refills and perhaps one day soon, college tuition. And by the way, it's not something for nothing. Your state, your country is improved by this idea of your citizenry being improved. When you're driving a car right now, you're driving a car. Somebody had to invent the wheel. Somebody had to invent the car. When you go to the grocery store, somebody had to invent the technology that would allow them to build that store. Everything that you do, everything that's around you, had been invented by something, and everybody builds off the previous work or by somebody else's earlier work. You're never in a situation where you're getting something from nothing. Everything builds off of something else. Giving people college for quote-unquote free, gives back to your community, gives back to your society. It makes that person better just as a human being and as an individual to be able to get that particular education without having $50,000 of debt on their heads. Do you honestly believe that having trillions of dollars in debt by students, by people who are in their 20s and 30s, is something awesome for your particular government? That holding this thing over their head saying, if you want to better yourself, if you want to get an education, if you want to give back to your particular society, your community, through your educational gifts, you're going to have $50,000, $60,000 hanging over your head as debt. As debt peonage. Why would you want that as a society? And do you believe it makes your society better for that kid to have an education? I hate this idea of, oh, they're just giving it away for free. It's not free. It's not free. They had to work their ass off. They had to study for it. And whatever gifts they have to contribute to their society is going to be by virtue of them getting that education. You will get that back in spades. That's my point. I hate this line of logic of, oh, these guys just want something for free. It's not free. It's not free. Our society benefits and builds off of the talents of the people of our society. Yes, you want them to be competitive. You want them to have this edge in regards to education. And no, you don't want them to have massive amounts of debts on their back just for getting that education. Sorry, that's a tangent. Look, all I'm trying to make the point for here is these things, just these three alone, are massive. These things are massive. They've told us that the American public in no way wants this stuff, that this stuff is just socialism and blah, blah, blah. And you talk to the American public itself, and the American public says, yes, we want those things. We want the virtues that European societies have. We want those things. If you're going to make an argument for centrism, I'll make an argument that centrism is right here. Let's make an argument that centrism is right here. Bernie Sanders is not the outlier. Bernie Sanders is essentially standing in the center of the country. So it's not this conversation between Sandinistas and Clintonistas and pretending as if the goal line or the field of centrism is between those two sides. It's just wrong. When you're looking at and asking people, what do those particular people want? Take the labels off. What do you want? What do you think your society should look like? This is where this society is. This is where they are. What you're talking about. The Democratic wing has slid so far to the right that they shouldn't be able to call themselves the left party. The debate is not between Sanders and Clinton. The center is, for the most part, Sanders. So, if that's the conversation you want to have, the left is standing in the center. The Democrats have just gone so far off the reservation that they can no longer be considered the left. They're not the left. The independents that has left this country, for the most part, should be considered, that's the centrist. This is what these guys want. I will leave it at that. I will put the links at the bottom to the post. Thanks, guys.